Hey, my friends, it's day 61, and we're reading Numbers chapter 16 through Numbers chapter 17. But before we get into today's recap, I want to thank you for joining us in today's video, and hopefully you have already accepted the invitation that is in the description box below to join us in the yearly Bible reading program. If you have not, please click that link and it'll take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, and you'll be able to join several people across the country reading God's Word and studying and trying their best to understand what God is saying to us in this time that we're living in. So if you have not yet joined, please click that link, accept the invitation, be a part of the community of readers that are reading all across the country and leaving feedback every single day about what they're learning along this journey in God's Word. So here we are, Numbers chapter 16 through Numbers chapter 17, and it is an interesting conversation, or should I say explanation, of what has happened and what is happening to Moses as he's trying to lead the nation of Israel to the promised land. I'm reminded of a comment or a supposed quote. Many people have tried to dispute it, and some believe that it's not even true, but I think it drives a point very well. Many people are aware of Harriet Tubman. And Harriet Tubman was, of course, the pioneer and that led people through the Underground Railroad. And when they finally got through the railroad the first time, her mindset was not to sit back and relax, but was to go back and get more people. And obviously, some people believe that it was worth trying, because they would rather be free than to stay in slavery all their lives. Some people decided or thought that it was a complete absurd venture, that it was not worth the risk. And it was said that Harriet Tubman stated, out of all the many people that she rescued, she could have rescued more if they had only known that they were slaves. And what I see in this passage is a man trying his best to labor for his people, trying to bring people who are no longer in slavery, but very much slaves in their mind, to final freedom, final liberty, not just from the chains of people who held them all their lives, but from the slavery that is still within their own minds, holding them captive to an old state of living that God is trying to free them from. And rather than participating in this liberation, they seem to be fighting the one whom God is using to free them, both literally and spiritually. He is the one that has been chosen to usher them into a land that will give them the freedom to worship and exist as the nation they were created to be. And it is sad to see this, but it is so typical within the body of believers and within the family of God, that this desire to be everything but what God has called you to be. And so we see that happening in the sons of Korah, who are actually descendants of Kohath, and we understand Kohath's responsibilities in Numbers chapter 4, verse 11 through verse 12. And so they have been given certain responsibilities, that is to take responsibility over the sacred objects of the temple or the tabernacle at this point. And we see here in chapter 16 that they in their mind are saying, wait a minute, which is almost pretty understandable, because again, they're over the sacred objects, whereas the other clans would have been over like the pipes and the drapery and the general instruments. They're over the sacred things, and perhaps they use that to say, okay, we're a better clan within the tribes of Levi or within the tribe of Levi than the other individuals. But they begin to question the role of Moses and the authority that he has, if you will. And this was already attempted in just what was it, 4 chapters ago, in chapter 12, where Aaron and Miriam tried to do something similar and were proven to be absolutely out of order and wrong. And I don't see this as a hierarchical thing, like Moses is here and we're here. I don't see it that way. I think more importantly, it was understanding that every person in the family of God has a responsibility, has a function. And because God is orderly and he desires to maintain function in the midst of a chaotic world, it is against our best interests to try to step out of that order and outside of that function that God has appointed in his own sovereignty, in his own wisdom, and in his own power. So Korah obviously gets to see that that terrible mistake. They suffer tremendous loss as a result of their rebellion, where 250 men were burned as they were offering before the Lord. Tragedy. And then again, those around witnessing this suffered as well, resulting in the death of 14,700 people. So nearly 15,000 people lost their life because of this step outside of order and function, and it did not have to be that way. We see the same sort of thing happening in chapter 17, where people are getting beside themselves, and they are not respecting the roles that God has put in place for the nation of Israel. So here's the thing that I pick up from today's reading. It is in our best interest, and it is absolutely appropriate to simply be satisfied with who you are and what you have been called to do in the grand story that God is writing in this world that we are a part of. It is completely fine that we all are not Martin Luther Kings, and we're not all Sojourner Truths, and we're not all Harriet Tubmans. It is completely a blessing that we're not all pastors, and we're not all minstrels, and we're not all singers and things of this nature. Or we're not all governors. We're not all mayors. It is a beautiful testament to, or should I say, it is a beautiful reality, I should say it that way, that we all have various roles according to the gifts that God appoints to all of us, because it demonstrates the peculiarity of every single human being, the uniqueness of every single human being, and the place and the role that you play, and the grand thing that God is trying to do in this world. So important is your role and mine that God decided not to make a duplicate of us. He did not decide to make someone that can do the exact same thing we do. He decided to make us uniquely different so that we together can accomplish something far more beautiful and far more glorious to our Father before it is ever glorious to us, than if we were just simply carbon copies of the people we idolize and are greatly inspired by. So when we look at this, it's a tragic mistake. And again, it's one of those things you have to work through as you're a nation building yourself up to become the people that God can be proud of in a new land that he's given you. So we see all of these things working out. It's just a part of the story, a part of the process even, if you will. But the goal is to get to where we should be so we can ultimately glorify God. And that's what Israel's whole purpose was. So we're going to keep on reading, have a lot more to study. And Lord willing, we'll be able to get through this and develop more principles and practical aids, if you will, that will help us along our journey in the faith. But until next time, thank you for watching. Keep on reading. Take care. God bless. And remember, live by the word.